Hey, good morning, everyone. Hope you are having a fabulous Tuesday. Today, Kyler and I are going to talk about AI in the small business world. We see it coming up more and more all the time. It's that continued buzzword of what does AI really look like? And are we eventually going to be hanging out with robots all the time? Or will AI still let us as humans control it to some capacity? So, that's we're going to discuss today. And for everybody watching, please put your comments in. It's always fun to hear what questions you guys have, and especially around the AI side of things, as it's more of a trend that's growing in the small business world over time, because we've seen it in the larger industries, which I know you've seen a lot, Kyler.
Mhm.
And now it's something that's used and affordable for the small business world. So I'm excited to chat through all things AI for small business today.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited. I brought some specific case studies. I think it's always helpful, especially for the SMB community, to be like, I hear all of these different theories and all of these different studies, but I don't exactly know how AI is supposed to help me. So I brought about five SMBs focused AI case studies for us to kind of walk through, and that way across the world, so we can really look at like what happened and how did they implement AI? Because I think something that I see a lot, especially with SMBs, is they have this misconception that you need AI at an enterprise level.
Mhm.
And that couldn't be farther from the truth. One, that's expensive, that's super risky. And I also see a lot of people using vendors that just quite honestly are not legit. They are, these types of like ghost vendors, as I call them, where they have you buy something and then they just kind of go away, and it's totally up to you as a small business owner who might have one to two people, if any, on your IT team. And it's so hard for you to be able to understand, okay, I invested in this technology, but how am I actually getting a return on investment from it?
Yep.
Cool. Well, let's walk through some of these. I'm excited to kind of share them with you. So, the first one I'm actually going to do is out of Belgium, and it's in the renewable energy category. And don't come for me if I mispronounce the business names. I'm doing the best I can over here. I'm American. I was born American. I only know how to say things in a certain way. So it's called a Turbulent Hydro is the company. And this small business was kind of becoming more of a force in the renewable space. And what they do is they use AI to monitor and predict water flow for its micro hydro turbines. And so they also use robotics, or RPA, to automate data collection and adjust those turbines. And some results from that, before we kind of go into what that really means, is this led to a 15% increase in energy output and reduced maintenance costs by automating routine checks and allowing engineers to focus on more innovation. And so the thing that really stands out to me in this, Christy, is utilizing AI for something that's not as sexy, that's not as cool, like predictive maintenance or quality control. And that's where AI can really be a game changer in creating these efficiencies, kind of mining your own processes and your business structure to reduce costs as a way to gain revenue, as opposed to, finding new revenue streams or boosting sales. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I've seen it a handful of times pop up now for all of the machinery maintenance,
Mhm.
because it really helps. How many clients I've had, they keep an Excel spreadsheet, or there's some document on the wall that's, hey, I checked it last Tuesday, signed off on it. And while that has always worked in the past, it doesn't help with predictability. And I think, to your point of, when you have the AI in there, it can start looking for trends. It can see, hey, there's so many hours on this machine that it's pulling from something else, and can bring that in. There's also ways that it can make sure that if you know some type of maintenance that's going to pop up because of
Mhm.
what you've told AI to start measuring for you, you can make sure to have parts on hand. There's a lot of things that I've seen that help, and I think it's really cool for the small business, so they don't have to kind of ride by the seat of your pants, hoping, hey, I hope the machine didn't go down today. Or if I do take it down, is that going to disrupt my line? And I think AI has helped with that predictability too, of if I know I'm going to have to take machines down over the next
Mhm.
couple of weeks on and off, I can adjust the line to know for that. So it's a seamless transfer and we're not getting behind.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that that's so critical. And looking at this specific case study, especially in an emerging marketplace, which is renewable energy, having that ability to have that predictive and quality control over your assets, so your predictive maintenance when it comes to equipment is so critical. And it's not a complicated, as long as you work with an established vendor and have a team helping you. It's not a complicated AI to implement,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's something that is definitely a great kind of speed to value type of business case that you can utilize in just that one business unit. So I love that example. If you worked on that or you're in renewable energy, I'd be curious to hear from you and Chrissy's comments to see if that's something that you've seen as well. But another one I have in here, which I chose a tax one because I had to give you
Because why not? I mean,
yeah, your
that's where we
your
sit 3/4 of the time. I love that
yeah,
world.
and they have like a really cool name. So it's called Notice Ninja. And it's actually here in the US, it's Phoenix based, so Southwest United States. And they use AI to automate tax notice processing, streamline compliance, and reduce manual errors. This has really saved them a ton of time and enabled kind of proactive financial planning. So, not only for their clients, automating the tax notice, hey, taxes are due, or more way more about that than I do, but also the compliance piece, which is huge for this industry, especially here in the US, making sure that you're understanding how to be compliant. And not only that, but where's your compliance documentation? Where does that live? How can you access it quickly in an audit to make sure that you are giving whatever audit organization all of the information that you need to do? And then lastly, reducing those manual errors. So creating an AI that's customized, you working with a vendor, creating an AI that's customized to manual errors that you've seen in your processes after process mapping, right? So that's one that I think is definitely in the financial world. Just looking at how can I decrease manual errors and automate, notices is a huge piece that just gets those manual pieces off the table.
Yeah, it is. And I think this is a part of the accounting industry that I'm really excited for too, of how much
Mhm,
change is coming into it and how AI is being utilized, but also technology as a whole in the accounting industry. I think specifically to this is you do see, and there has been so much manual data input. And how is AI going to be able to extract out of different documents that people provide and
mhm,
upload that information in, whether it's to a tax software, whether it's into something else? I've seen that. And then with just the compliance of, how are we going to flag compliance issues?
mhm,
How is AI going to come into software or your own processes to say,
mhm,
hey, you know what, this is a potential red flag here. There's going to be discrepancies. You need to handle it. I mean, you look at, I know some people, when you're on the individual side, you're using TurboTax and you're filing your taxes, and it will go in there and say, hey, you can't move past this step because there's some type of discrepancy. And there's that type of stuff. That's more just the software side. But
mhm,
how will AI, kind of come into that in the future and maybe tell
mhm,
you, oh, you should go over here, pull from this document, and also spotting errors that, not to say that the tax software doesn't find it, but maybe there's a different set of algorithms that run in the background that's,
mhm,
hey, did you think about this tax credit? Let's take you here. And then again, with all of the notices that you spoke to, of making sure that those are coming on time, you're not paying penalties or going through audits because you're seeing those come and you're taking care of them in that time frame.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that almost employee level individual process is a great opportunity for AI where it's kind of following you and just flagging things like little tips. I think like especially our generation that grew up with Clippy, we have a little bit of like PTSD. And I'd love to hear in the comments again, do you know what Clippy is? Because every time I have these conversations, I'm always like aging myself. But when we had Clippy, that always was popping up there being like, you're doing this wrong, right?
Yeah.
So we've come a long way since Clippy when it comes to those processes and creating those efficiencies that are less like shaming you, like Clippy did, and more like talking you through where can you find this, where can you source this, or where can you flag this compliance issue, especially at like just the observation deck. And it's less like intrusive to employees' processes, and it's more being reframed as an enhancement to the process,
Mhm.
making your job easier for you as opposed to kind of that watchdog software that nobody wants, you know? So,
Right. Yeah,
am I
'cause you don't
moving
get
my mouse
anything
around?
done.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well,
It's
let's
the
go on
worst.
to another one here. This one's kind of interesting. It's out of the UK. It's in manufacturing, which I know you have a ton of experience, kind of their sweet spot for both of us. But the company is called Rubix, and it deployed an AI-powered predictive maintenance with RPA to monitor machinery and schedule maintenance automatically. This reduced unplanned downtime by 40%, which I think is wild. Obviously, there was lots of opportunity there, and saving 25% in maintenance costs annually. What does that mean of saving 25% annually for a small to medium sized business?
Hey, that's huge savings. You think of it probably if there's people in larger organizations, 25% could be immaterial. But you look at a small business, and that can be a huge amount of money that can be utilized for other things, like so many things, paying
Yeah.
down debts, hiring more people, etc.
Absolutely. Like and to be even able to realize that is such like a huge one. And I think that goes to some of our comments here. I know you're driving there, Christy, so you got to
Yep.
pull them up. But like looking at the data infrastructure. So the thing I think we caution a lot, Christy and I, is these sound really good, right? Like I definitely want to save 25% in annual maintenance costs, but the only way that we were able to do this or the company was able to achieve this was through understanding their data. So, will you kind of talk about the infrastructure needed for AI, maybe even inside and outside of accounting systems?
Yeah, because I think let's go back to the manufacturing because
Mhm.
this is where you see it a lot, and we've kind of used the same thing we're talking about with the predictive maintenance. Is you have to know what your process is. How are you tracking predictive maintenance today? What are the things that you need to get out of it? And then from there, looking at where are the things that AI can help you, and
Mhm.
what are the data points that AI can help track? Is that sensor monitoring and utilizing a handful of other tools that are out there. And I think once you really understand what you're looking for, the data points that you need, then it's finding the right AI technology that can support that and something that is cost effective as well. Because to your point too, you don't want to just buy the AI software and then you get ghosted, the day that you pay
Mhm.
the bill and they're like, hey, good luck. Hope it gets you what you need. But it's also knowing too, like both of us share all the time. It's garbage in, garbage out. If the
Mhm.
data that you have on your predictive maintenance is garbage, AI is not going to help you. It
Mhm.
will continually process garbage for you. And so if you have the data infrastructure in place, meaning you have clean data, you have those KPIs that you want to track, that will help support the AI in outputting what you need to make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And in specifically these compliance situations, and I have another one I'll share in healthcare after this, but looking at the need for security
Yeah.
as you grow and you scale, that's no joke, especially if you're in the European market that they have much more legislation around AI and data usage than we do here in the States. We can be slower to adopt those, but it's something that you need to ensure that you're keeping up with and understanding the security requirements around this technology. You need to balance that, I would even say, more than you balance the innovation of the technology.
Mhm.
Innovation is so important, but it's not going to matter if you're not compliant with your local regulations.
Yeah. And even industry regulations too, because a
True.
lot of manufacturers, if you're in the aerospace and defense, arena, there's a whole nother set
Oh
of
my gosh.
compliance you have to follow. And how is AI keeping up with that? Because there's so much classified information that runs in that industry.
Absolutely. And I moderated for Solutions Review an A&D panel last week. And I kind of thought we were going to talk about like rocket innovations and things
Yeah.
like that. Most of the AI conversations was around how do we ensure that we're compliant
Mm.
now that these regulations are in place. And they just finished, especially here in the United States, just finished rolling out those regulatory area. So you need to make sure that the system that you have in place, whether it be a new system that you're looking at or an existing system, has those regulatory compliance within your update structure. So you're so right when it comes to the fancier the
Yes.
innovations, the more compliant you
Mhm,
need
that
to
you
be.
have to get.
Yeah, which is so funny.
It is.
And
And
speaking,
some of it's scary too of you think about people using ChatGPT and what are the regulations that
yeah.
ChatGPT even follows, and I have some clients that are, "Hey, I just dropped my bank statement in there and it
Oh my
analyzed." I'm like,
gosh.
"Okay, okay,
No.
that's great. I'm glad it did these things for you, but now it has your banking information. It has all of
Yeah.
these things in here, and that's just a part of me and probably you too, because we heard so many compliance horror stories. We've
Oh,
heard
absolutely.
so many of these things, and people willfully giving very information that you would want to protect, giving it so freely. I'm like, okay, well, let's hope that this is a legit source that you just ran all of your information
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great another use case for AI. White label a Gen AI tool if you need to use it for financial information. I even, am so psycho that I say don't use it for your branding information. Anything that you give ChatGPT, it's an open source. People
Mhm.
have access to it if they, so wanted to, which hackers, phishing, scams, those types of things get more and more sophisticated every single day. And you're helping that cause when you put that type of information in an open source system like ChatGPT. There's lots of things you can do with ChatGPT to be more efficient, but you can also white label your own
Mhm.
ChatGPT and build that in if you do have, an area in which you need to share that sensitive information. So knowing that is an option and looking at how you utilize that is so, so important too. So
Yeah.
definitely a good point.
It is, yeah, and I see it all the time, it's crazy.
I know people that will be our generation of like this putting anything and everything in chat GPT and that will be discoverable one
Yeah.
day. And it is now. You can use it in a court of law because it's an open AI source. And so it's one of those things where we used to post anything on Facebook and now, the God bless the, election of 2035 because, God knows what they were posting on Facebook because we didn't think the internet was forever then.
Right.
And we learned obviously the hard way of, putting a bunch of stuff could cost you your job, your reputation, especially, in today's day and age. But same with chat GPT. We don't know, what that really looks like as far as what sort of access that information or where that data goes. So,
Or it's gonna be like Facebook and it's like, "Hey, memory from 1 year ago.
oh,
Remember when you asked about this topic?"
and you were like, delete, 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 delete. I don't want
Yeah,
to remember that.
exactly.
I've evolved. I don't want to remember that part of myself. Oh my
Great.
gosh. That's so funny. Well, let's do one more of these in
Okay.
our time. And I'm actually going to choose, I know I mentioned the one around HIPAA, but it's kind of similar to the compliance. So I'm going to go a different way and do food and beverage. So this is actually a case study of a local bakery here in the States. And it used AI powered inventory management to analyze sales data and predict popular products on specific days. And their goal here was, hey, we don't want to just make everything. We want to reduce the waste of our food and increase sales while making our customers more satisfied. So they use that inventory management to kind of analyze that and look around that. I know a lot of your clients, Christy, specifically, are just kind of dipping their toes into inventory management. And there's so much opportunity there when it comes to the use of AI through just looking at your historical data and scanning that, giving you key findings of what you can do to reduce waste, make your customers more satisfied, and plan for things that you buy.
Yeah. And I think it was a couple weeks ago when I had the founder of Connect Books on here, and we had the discussion about inventory, and even like his software is doing too, of looking at, using these data points to determine, is this a product that I sell a lot? And if I don't, maybe I sell it one time a year, I probably should retire the product and not buy the inventory to produce it, or find a way to do something else. And I think a lot of small businesses, because they are so customer focused, and that's why we like and support small businesses, because, hey, you have this one unique item and I love it, but it lasts forever, so I never need to buy it again. But I hate that they wouldn't sell it anymore, or something like that. And I've had comments like that on certain videos too, of, don't tell people to get rid of inventory items. We love it, but it is a one-off item.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think people can get kind of led in the wrong direction with that, of not understanding on the customer side of things why small businesses are utilizing the inventory management part of it. Is the rising costs of being a small business owner. It's everything inventory. It's expensive. It's expensive to have on the shelf. It's expensive to order it, all of these things. But then when the customer goes to the little mom and pop shop down the street, it's like, oh, well, we don't carry this anymore. And, it's that disgruntled of, okay, well, now you're like Amazon and you're just chasing dollars. And it's not what it is. It's a whole different way of looking at things. And I think the inventory side that AI is providing has been one of my favorite to see, because inventory is so complex. There's so much that goes into it. And when you are a small business owner, just monitoring all things inventory, if you have a really small team, can be overwhelming.
Absolutely, especially if you've never really worked in that before, and now you're starting to kind of flex that muscle of your business. Okay, how do we work smarter? How do we reduce waste? Especially in our current time, where small businesses are just running around. A lot of times, we're just reacting to the market, trying to stay afloat, trying to scale. It's not an easy thing, and that's why a lot of times we recommend just bringing someone in that's not going to push any sort of solution on you, that's just going to kind of take a look at what you got going on under the hood, just like the mechanic does, and say, this is something that you could really benefit from. And here's what I recommend that you look at. And that's one of those things when it comes to inventory management. It's interesting. The way I look at it in like a simplified form is, my daughter has a ton of food allergies. So she can only have this one type of cookies. And we shop at one grocery store. They do not carry that type of cookies. So we have to make a special trip to another grocery store to get this type of cookies. I am now like leading a charge to get this other grocery store to carry the type of cookies. And I'm like, I will commit to buying out your full supply every single time, and try and influence. They're over here like, lady, you're crazy.
Right.
But I'm like, if you buy it, I ensure that I will go through all of your inventory each month to make sure that you're not losing any money when it comes to these types of cookies. And that type of customer experience is something that I'm trying to manipulate their inventory algorithms. But again, they don't carry it, probably because it's not that popular, because not a lot of people have the amount of food allergies that my daughter has. And so it's just one of those things where, as a customer at an SMB, you have to understand that there is levels of, them trying to balance what they can do, because that type of overbuying in an inventory management situation can bankrupt a business. It's,
Mhm.
it's no joke when it comes to inventory management. If you don't know how to do it, don't just go out there and try and, guess and say, okay, since there's a ton of tariffs and I can't get my, raw materials from China anymore, I'm going to, buy 100 million of them. That's
Right.
not the way to do it, because then it's a huge financial risk
Mhm.
to you, and you don't have that capital anymore to move around the business where you might need it.
Yeah. And there's so many strategies that come with inventory too. And I think AI, as it learns all those different strategies, can help. So like the whole thing, maybe you can tell, you tell AI, or you look in there and, hey, I know the tariffs are going to come in. This is what it is. Help me build a strategy so I know how much inventory to purchase. But
Mm-hmm.
you also see things with just the supply chain and how dependent it is on, economics, but also global too. You can't just buy all of your supplies in the States anymore. But if you do, there's a cost that's associated with it, that you don't get from shopping overseas. And what does that look like? I mean, I have a client that is 100% American made and manufactured,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a little bit of higher costs that
Mm-hmm.
she has to deal with,
Absolutely.
but that's what she wanted to be known for, and it's worked for her for almost 20 years. But there's other companies that I know that buy materials, and they're shopping other suppliers. They used to buy from China, and it's like, okay, we got to go look at Vietnam now, and
Mm-hmm.
potentially some other South Asian countries, and
Mm-hmm.
see what pops up there.
And that's a great kind of segue. I think it's cool to leave the audience with, some things they can do today to prep. And I have kind of a list. I'm interested to hear what you say about it. But one of those areas is that diversification in suppliers. If you have your suppliers organized, if you have the data all matching up, you can deploy an agentic AI bot to go in there and scan the suppliers to see proximity, pricing, shipping time, having that ability to give your procurement team those tools to leverage AI and let the technology find the supplier
Yep.
in that type of piece. But that's only going to work if you have, I think my top three are: evaluate your IT infrastructure. And you say this all the time,
Mhm.
Christy, is you do have an IT team, even if they're not named IT, right? You absolutely have a systems infrastructure. Even if you're running QuickBooks and you're using ChatGPT,
Yep.
that is part of your technology stack. So start to really look at where AI can support those workloads and how you're going to review your data quality. And that's really my second piece of this. You cannot do any of this without quality data. Data is so overwhelming, especially for a small to medium sized business, because maybe your data is siloed. Like accounting does what they do over there with data, manufacturing does what they do, production does what they do. I don't know where all of these things are. So many times we come into a company and they're like, I'm so ready for AI. And we're like, yes, let's do this. Where's your data? And they're like, I have no idea.
Yeah, they're like, help us find it,
Yeah, right.
because
And you're
it's
like,
it's
okay,
a culmination of
can
about
do, but yeah,
200.
you're not at all ready for AI if you don't know where your data is. It's just like going up to the roof and throwing money off of it.
Mhm.
You have to have that. And then last but certainly not least, and then I'll kind of let you chime in of what you have to do, is define a clear vision of what you want to see. What are the outputs you want to achieve? Saying things like AI is a strategic objective for 2025. That doesn't mean anything.
No.
That means zero. And it actually hurts more than it helps, because there's no clear vision. Is it to decrease manufacturing waste by 25%? Is it to make sure that all of you're reaching 98% quality with what you're doing? As far, is it to diversify your supplier list? What does it really mean for you? And you as business leaders need to sit down and define that before you're chasing the technology all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just going to cost you time, money, and most importantly, the respect of your community, of your employees. They're not going to trust you to deploy new technology anymore if you don't have an idea of what it's doing. There's a place in which you can be agile in these conversations, but these are really where you need to align with, these are our goals, and this is the why behind we're implementing AI.
Yeah. No, and I like that. I like to work backwards on everything, and maybe that's an accounting thing of here's where I want to end up, and then what are all the steps I have
Exactly.
to do to get to the beginning of where to start. And I think that's a great way to look at AI. If I know I want to cut, maybe I want to cut my on-hand inventory by 20%. Okay, that is the goal that I need to reach. And how am I going to utilize AI with the data points that I do have to get to that goal? And that's, kind of putting those steps in backwards to find it.
I love
And
that approach. I think
yeah,
we
I
should
love it.
all,
I do it on everything, and it's
yeah.
really funny. Some people, they always laugh at me because even it's just general problem solving with friends.
Uh-huh.
I will do stuff on there, and they're like, oh, because I'll ask, where do you want to go? And they'll do this, and then we'll work backwards to solve whatever problem. And everybody's like, huh, that's interesting. And I'm like, that's how I've always done it, because in
Yeah.
accounting, you get to a number sometimes and there's a discrepancy. Okay, now I got to work backwards to find out what it is. And usually everything's divisible by 2 or 4, and you can find your answer pretty quickly.
Yeah. I love that. I usually
It
have,
makes me laugh.
our team asks 5 whys. If you can answer 5 reasons why are you doing this? To get better competitive advantage. Why do you need competitive advantage?
Mhm.
To be sustainable in the marketplace. Why do you need to be sustainable? So you can really drill down on that. And that seems so funny and silly, but it really gets you to the root of what are you looking for. It's actually like an ancient Buddhist methodology to problem solving. So
Hmm.
I think you're there. I think that's the way to do it,
Yeah. So
especially with AI,
yeah,
right?
especially with AI. Yes, I agree. So I think one thing is just to leave everybody that's listening or who will listen in the future is, I would be curious to know if you can write in the comments, how are you starting to utilize AI in your small business today? What are some of the pain points that you've run into as you're trying to bring that solution in? Whether that's, hey, we don't know where our data is, we don't know how clean the data is, or which type of AI to bring in that will work best with the systems we have. I'd just be curious to know what that is, and then just open those conversations up with you guys. But again, thank you so much, Kyler. It was always fun chatting AI with you.
Always,
And
always. Thanks for having me.
yeah, and thank you everybody for your questions. And I'll reply more to those in the chat afterwards. But yeah, so thank you, and we will be back next week for more things about accounting and technology.